You're listening to Grown and Growing with Sonia Hamlin. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here today because I am in conversation with Maya Guy. I have known Maya for at least 20 years. Her husband and my husband are best friends and fraternity brothers, and they're very close, and therefore we have been in each other's orbit for a very long time. She is a stay-at-home mom of 5 kids who are phenomenal kids, and the reason she's on this podcast today is because she started a Facebook group called Suburban Women for the People. You guys, this group has over 200,000 members. Yeah. When I was thinking about starting this podcast, Maya, unbeknownst to her, gave me a lot of motivation and inspiration because I was seeing what she was doing with this group and with this page, and I was so inspired. And so I brought her onto the podcast to tell her story. Suburban Women for the People was started in 2020 during the presidential election. Joe Biden nominated then Senator Kamala Harris to be his running mate. And Maya was a fan of that. But she knew that Kamala would face a lot of unfair criticism due to her sex and her race. You know, just think back to how First Lady Michelle Obama was treated during the Obama years. Yeah, that. So she started a group called Suburban Women for the People as a way to support Kamala. Well, it turned out to be so much more than that. Maya is using her voice and her platform to have tough conversations around racial inequality, gender inequities, and the plight of marginalized people in this country. In her own way, she is helping people become better humans and saving our democracy. She's doing so much good, y'all. And on top of all that, she was recently elected to be a member of her school board in her county. Talk about doing what you can with what you have. I'm so excited about our conversation. So let's get into it. Welcome, Maya, to the Grown and Growing podcast. I'm so excited to have you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yay. I'm so glad to have you. It's been a long time. When I thought about starting this podcast, I was like, I definitely have to have Maya because she's done some amazing things and I want to talk to her about it. But first and foremost, we were just joking before I pressed record about you being an awesome mother, and that you're a mom of 5 brilliant kids, guys. She has raised a son who is working for NASA. Can I call him a rocket scientist?
You can call him a rocket scientist, but he is so humble. He calls himself a overpaid mechanic or something
of spaceships.
Like that's what he calls him, a glorified mechanic. So it's not a big deal. He still had to take out the trash when he come visit. I don't care if he works for NASA. Take my trash out.
See, this is why you're an excellent mom. Okay, the fact that he's so humble. He's a mechanic for a freaking spaceship, and all of your kids are amazing. You have 4 in college. Wait, is Maya in college? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have 4 in college, 1 at home.
So she will start. Yeah, she'll start Morgan. I think she goes in July for her orientation, and I have 1 left who has said 1,000 times she is going to Morgan. So we will have 4 kids go to Morgan and only 1.
Go Bears!
Yeah,
of course. And also, let me just say that her husband is a Morganite as well, which is why it runs so deep in her family.
Absolutely does.
So go Bears. But we're not here to talk about how great of a mom you are, although I could spend all day trying to get lessons from you because I need them. We're here to talk about a project that you started, an initiative that you started. And I want to talk about how it started, but you are an administrator and the founder of a group called Suburban Women for the People. And it's a Facebook group that has over 200,000 women in it. And we're going to talk about how that started because it started with Trump, ironically.
It did.
So I want everybody to go back to 2020, to the 2020 election, which honestly seems so far away because we've been through so much for the country. Before we were thinking about COVID, the biggest thing that we were talking about is we cannot let Donald Trump get another 4 years. Like that was the biggest thing. If you could even think back, it seems so far away now, but, I hope coming up that we don't have to go through that again. But the real focus of the culture of American, politics was the election and not getting him elected again. And so he had started to, he wanted to position him in order to see that show that he was different from Democrats. He started to say that, he can make the suburbs safer. And if you voted in a Democrat, they were going to put affordable housing up and all of these gangbangers and people were going to come and raid the suburbs. And there was a quote he said, I actually want to read it because I want to give him all the credit, that he said, where he said, can I ask you to do me a favor, suburban women? Will you please like me? Which is so Trump. Please, please. I saved your damn neighborhoods. Okay. So he said that happened. And then you pick up the story from here because I want to know what happened. I remember the day he said that quote. And then what did you do?
Okay. So when that happened, so as far as you saying like the country was focused on not getting him elected, many of the country were focused on getting him elected.
That is
and
true.
When our current vice president, but she was then Senator Harris, when she was nominated, or I guess brought up by Biden to be his VP pick, that's when I decided to make the group with my girlfriend. It wasn't just me, it was me and my girlfriend. Because I was like, oh man, there's going to be so much hate and vitriol and just misogynoir and like racism and just, it's hard enough being a woman in politics or being a woman in business field or whatever, being a woman
period.
Playground. But to add when you're Black on top of that, or when you're non-white on top of that, you deal with so much other stuff. And when there is a woman, well, I was like, listen, I saw how they and how that language got thrown at me, and I'm just a mom in Virginia minding my business, and what they'll see someone say that was disrespectful or disgusting to Mrs. Obama, I would see that same thing said about me, like when they got mad at me or something on social media. So it wasn't necessarily just like an anti-Trump thing for me. That wasn't the impetus for me. For me, it was to make a safe space for me and women who look like me, that where we could just go and lament about the election, about not the politics of it, but how they're treating her and how they are treating us. That truly was what it was. It was like, let's get in here and talk about how these people hate Black people or hate Black women, or how things happen. And I thought we would talk about what happened at work. You know what I'm saying? We went to the grocery store, and I hate this happens to me all the time. Like, hi, are you paying with WIC? There's nothing wrong with paying with WIC. But I live in a gated community and I don't work. My husband affords all of this. I don't need WIC, right? Don't assume I need WIC because my skin is brown, but I deal with that all the time. Or when I go to visit my husband at work, oh, is he the janitor? Nah, boo, he's the deputy. Do you know what I'm saying? I get that. I deal with that all the time. Like all the time. So that's what it was. Just for me, I was like, this is going to be too much. It's going to stress me out. And I love social media. My Facebook is my outlet. So that's what I did. I made the group like that. And I was going to invite some white women too, but not a lot. Because I wanted us to be really free to just say stuff, and I didn't want us to have to preface it and make sure that we weren't offending someone. Like, I wanted them to be able to get it. The girlfriend who I made the group with, she gets it. I don't have to explain it to her. Like, sometimes she'll point it out to me, like, did you see what they said? And I'm like,
and she's white.
Yeah, she's white, but she gets it. She's from California. Okay. She gets it. So that's what I did the night that he nominated her, before like it went through. Right. I think then a week later, it was the Democrat National Convention where she accepted it. That night I went to bed with like 20 people. I don't even think I had invited you yet. I just was like, I just made it for a couple of friends, and I told them, like, message them, hey, this is gonna be for us. Invite your friends and like be careful about who you invite, right? It's for us. But I didn't know how to make a Facebook group, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, I made one before, but I didn't understand. So it was set up that you can invite your friends.
Right.
I went to bed. I woke up the next day, it was 1,000 people. And I was like, okay, that's not a big deal. Now I got 1,000 new friends. Everybody knew what the order was. Everybody knew the assignment. So this is 1,000 people. We all gonna have a great time. The next night, I had 10,000 people.
Oh my
And within a
gosh.
week, I had 50,000 people. And it just kept growing and growing. And so that's basically how it happened. And it wasn't necessarily for politics, but once I got 100,000 people, I was like, well, I am going to support Biden because I'm supporting Senator Harris.
Right.
So why don't I do something with it? And so that's what I did. I just decided to use to support them, but not just them. It was also just to support women. There were a tremendous amount of, and I would say about 25,000 women who were in that group were conservative Republican women, because they would out
What?
themselves. They would say, I'm a Republican, but I'm voting for Biden this time. Can I join this group? And I would say, absolutely, because I'm not anti anybody. We're just
Right.
anti-homophobia, anti-racism, anti-bigotry, but we're not anti anybody, because you
And it
can be,
wasn't a political group to you. So
no, you can be a
yeah.
conservative and still be a decent human. You could believe in
Right.
limited government and small taxes, right?
Yeah. And unfortunately, they have taken the conservative banner and like bastardized it.
Yes,
It's
yes,
become
it's
something
different now.
totally different
It's
than what it used to be. Yeah.
Yes. And so I definitely had those people in the group. Now, many of them, they were like, we're here for the election. They left afterwards because the numbers dropped off. Many of them did leave, but a few of them are still here because they're like, you know what? I can't be a Republican right now. Right. Like
Right.
I'm not going to vote that way right now. It is what it is. They might still be signed up as one in their state or whatever, but they're like, I can't vote for some of this stuff. Some of these people who want to abolish the Department of Education
Right.
and stuff
Right.
like that. Like they're not for that.
So when you, first of all, I would have freaked out when I woke up and it was 10,000 people. I would have been like, holy crap, what, like, how are you feeling as the numbers continue to grow? Because it grew past 100,000. You're at 200,000 people now. Yeah. And so you felt the weight of that responsibility because why?
It was weird. It was like, I didn't ask for this. I just wanted a place to shits and giggles. Like, that's me, right? I'm always gonna be shits and giggles and be stupid when you're not supposed to be, and like make off-color jokes. Like, that's how I deal with the weight of life. But that's different in front of like a lot of people. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
So I was just gonna just let things go. But then I saw people putting up posts that I was uncomfortable with. I was like, I don't like that. So then I had to shut it off, where your post had to be approved. And so then you get to see every post that people are trying to do. And some of the things were really insulting to housewives, right?
Right.
For instance, because remember, Trump had said that thing, and that was still in the ether out there. Everyone's still thinking about it. And they're like, please, like, we're housewives. We're better than that. We're more than that. And I'm like, you're not better than me. You're not more than me. You are equal to me. You're just different,
Right.
But then so that's when I was like, you know what? I have a platform, and some of these people need to get educated on how to treat people and how to communicate with people and how to behave. And it's a mixed, platform. So there were things that were said that aren't tolerant, right? Intolerant is the least, like that's the least okay way to treat people. And they would say things about brown people or queer people. And so I decided, since I got all these people here, I'm going to make them listen to me. And so I started doing a series of live videos talking about racism and people, hating on queer people or whatever it is, and just reminding people that we're stronger together and we should just be decent towards each other, regardless of who we love or how we live.
And so first of all, kudos to you for taking that responsibility on, because it's a huge responsibility. Because first of all, social media can be draining. People are a lot braver on social media than they are in real life. So you have your social media gangsters who want to test you. And I feel like that's what was happening at the beginning of the platform. People were testing the boundaries of the space to see, okay, what kind of group is this? What can I get away with? What is going to be tolerated? and you were smart enough to shut that down and
Yeah.
use the opportunity to educate people, which is huge.
Well, I was really lucky that I found a great group of people to help me and the
Mm-hmm.
admin people. Um, so I just enlisted a few neighbors who knew me and some who didn't know me too well, but they were on my social media, so they knew what I was about.
Mm-hmm.
And I just was like, hey, let's just run this group with all of us having the same bit of responsibility. Like they were just as important as me. I just did more videos, talking or whatever, but I would still run stuff by them. Like, how does this sound? How does this come off? Because when you're speaking to a broad group and you're speaking about nuanced things, that's a hard damn thing to do
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
be able to make a broad group of people understand it and not, turn people off too much, which, it's going to happen. That's fine too. But we came up with, because the moderators are amazing and I love them and I couldn't have done it without them. I wish I got paid for the group because I would love to compensate them for their
Right.
time. But oh well, it's free. But we ran it as a dinner, like this is a party because I'm a party girl. I'm a reform
Mm-hmm.
party mama.
Yes, you
Well, no,
are.
I'm still very proud. I love parties. And if you're at a party and someone starts acting up, you're gonna tell them to leave. But
Right.
first, what you're gonna pull them aside and or take them in the broom closet and be like, you can't say that type of stuff,
Right.
and explain to them why. And if they keep on talking, then you just kick them out the party. And that's basically how we ran it.
Awesome. And so okay, so there's two things. One, when I joined the group, I think I joined um, at a time when you had decided you had the moderators and you were also doing some fundraising, right, for Biden. You were
Mhm.
also hosting a lot of interviews with celebrities and political folks to
Forgot
try to
about that.
educate people. How do
Yeah,
you forget about that? You
because
interviewed Hill Harper.
yeah,
How can you
I
forget
know.
about that?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't forget about it because I looked deep into his eyes. Like I felt like he was, oh my God, he's so beautiful.
I
Okay,
looked deep into his eyes.
yeah. I mean, I did forget. I mean, but I did forget about the other interviews. I didn't forget about Bill Harper. Yeah, because I just was trying to help.
Mhm,
I'm a doer. I'm a helper. I have a helper's heart. That's what God put me on this earth to do.
mhm,
So, I just saw people and they were like, "Hey, this person is in your group as a like they're in it but they're not in it, like it's their alias but they have connections to the
mhm.
DNC or to this person or to that person." Like Hill Harper's best friend was in the group, so
Right.
she's like, do he's a great guy, he would help. And so I didn't have a lot of money, it was COVID, right? I lost my little part-time job, so I couldn't donate anything to
Mhm.
anybody because I had none, but I could get other people to donate and I could, do a fundraiser. So I just did some stuff like that. Now, looking back on it, I'm happy that I did it. I'm not super happy with the administration right now. We don't have to talk
Right.
about that, but
Right. I don't think anybody is. I don't
yeah.
think anybody is.
So,
It's a tricky situation. But
yes.
it's interesting because I mean, at the time it was like, well, what is the alternative, right? The alternative
Yes. The
is
alternative to me scared me for my children.
right,
Yeah. So
right,
I
exactly.
was doing whatever it is I have to do for my kids. And I wasn't even looking into the future of how that would impact me for my own election or what I want to do with my life. I was just scared.
Right. And so, the election happened. Obviously, Biden won. Sigh of relief. Not done. So, how does the group change? So, it was a very politically focused before because we were trying to like look at this and here's how you can support and don't forget these key voting dates and times and all of this and this is what's happening in this sector. So how does it change after the election, because you still have a pretty robust amount of people there
Yeah.
and
So
engaged. So when I look through the page, these are not passive posts. People engage, hundreds of people engage on the post all the time. And that's a hard thing to do, to continue to keep people engaged. So how did the group shift after the election?
well, we didn't really shift that much, though, to be quite
Mhm.
honest with you, because it was focused on that election, but it was also focused on social and racial justice and equity.
Right.
And
Which
that's
is
like what I love, right? That's what
right.
all my t-shirts are about that. right?
Right.
I wear that on my, like people was like, oh, you wear your emotions on your sleeve. Now I wear what I stand for on my shirt. I just
Exactly.
wore trans rights or humans rights to a school board meeting. Like that's who I am,
Which we'll get to that.
or who I try to
Okay.
be.
Hmm.
So we just shifted just a little bit. We're still focused on that other stuff, not the election. But now we are focused on keeping women engaged in the process.
Hmm.
That's like my main focus, is keeping women engaged, just not letting us go back to whatever it is you were doing before then. For instance, if I meet you and I'm like, oh, we talk about something and we bring up local politics, who is running? Shame on you.
Right.
Shame on you. You should know who's running. You should know all of that stuff, because the time to let your husband or your brother or your girlfriend or just not care about it, that time is over,
Right.
right? Like, there's too much at stake. So shame on you. And I literally don't have a problem making people feel crappy that they don't know what's going on. Like, I can help you. Like, let me help you,
Hmm.
but you need to know. So now the focus is just keeping women engaged. And if it's we'll advocate for anyone who is about helping people. It
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily matter if you are a Republican or a Democrat. Yes, we share mostly Democratic people, because
Hmm.
that's who usually tends to be inclusive of everyone. But there
Right.
are some other, like, I happen to know of someone, I'm not going to mention them, but in my state, who is a Republican who has worked a lot with Democrats, who, if someone were to share them in my group, I would approve it. Do
Hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Because they
Yeah.
they are working with everyone and they're trying to help everyone. But that's honestly the goal right now, is to get people to stop just being on social media and go out and do something, whether it's volunteering or actually running for office.
Hmm. So let me ask you a question that it's probably, I don't know, controversial. So there are a lot of white women in your group. And what I've learned, or what has been my personal observation over the group, over the course of years, is that even though there are white women who want to be allies, who want to be and who think of themselves as inclusive, there is still a lot of misunderstanding about people of color, specifically Black people. And there is this, there's still a privilege, a misunderstanding about who Black people are, what we want. And so you spend your time, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, talking a lot to those women and helping to kind of like know, this is why we feel this way, or this is why,
Mhm.
Black people say this. And I don't, this is not an example I saw in the group, but it could be like defund the police. What does that mean? Or it could be like, for instance, when you posted the podcast about code switching,
Mhm.
and somebody was like, I code switch because when you take my Southern voice and I push it to the back, and all of a sudden I'm not, or I code switch. And it was like professionalism getting confused with code switching, which is not the same thing. And so it's a very nuanced thing, and that not all Black people who have a platform feel like they want to do. They feel like they want to teach white
Mhm.
women or white people how to do that, because they feel like, well, the resources are there. There is Google, there
Mhm.
are books, there is paying attention, closer attention, there is not centering yourself. So how do you go about doing that delicately? Because I think you do a good job with it, where people aren't turned off and they want to run in the other direction from it.
So
It's
I've
very
never I've
sensitive.
never said this out loud before, except to one person. So it's gonna be hokey. But I feel like that's what God wants me to do. I Before I started the group, I remember saying one day, God, if you gave me a voice that people actually paid attention, I could do some good with some people. Not, I ain't gonna change the world, and I'm not trying to be Oprah, although I love Oprah and I would
I
be
love
Oprah if
Oprah
she
too.
let me.
Okay. Oprah stands
But I
over
just
here.
knew that I could reach some people, because I have honestly lived in a white society for like ever. I went to an all white school where there were like 5 Black kids and one was my cousin. So basically, call it 4 Black kids. And that was traumatizing. And
Right.
I've lived in white communities, or I've been in classes, and I went to a predominantly white college, and I was studying criminal justice, so everybody's white and most of them are male. And then, I was a corrections officer, so all the inmates are brown and everybody's white. Like, I've just been around a lot of
Right.
whiteness. And um my mom told me, like, when I was like 7 or 8, I remember I was sitting in the back of her car, and she was looking at me in the rearview mirror. I had did something and I messed up with my mouth. I'm always in trouble. I always say the wrong thing. I do not own a filter, and I was born without a filter. And she said, because you are who you are, people will hate you and some will love you. There will be no in between. You need to be okay with that. You got to be okay with people just not liking you from the moment you breathe. And she's right. I could tell too. People just don't like me. And then the people who get me love me. So it's
Right.
okay.
Right.
So I got comfortable with that eventually, like in my 30s, and was like, I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to let y'all know that I'm uncomfortable. Because
Hmm.
why should I just be uncomfortable and everybody around me is okay saying those microaggressions or saying things or making jokes,
Right.
right? So I got comfortable with everyone else being uncomfortable, and I would just speak how I felt. And I really do think that the more I spoke and didn't want to lose friends, the more I learned how to have those conversations.
Yeah.
And then I also realized that the Black women and men who are in the same circles or even have bigger platforms than I who don't do this are not wrong, right?
Right.
Sometimes, like, some people need to keep their reputation because of their job. They have to feed their families, right? Or for just whatever, a myriad of reasons that is not even my place to judge. But I have the opportunity because I never needed any job I had. So
Hmm.
I've always had my husband who supported me. So
Hmm.
because that's a privilege,
Hmm.
then
Yes, it is.
then when I realized that, I have to speak up for those who can't, right? And then I think I realized, because of my children and them being so critical of the person that I am, it's not a white woman thing or a white people thing. It is when you live your life as the dominant demographic, you are so unconcerned about everybody else who's marginalized. Because
Yep.
us cisgender Christian heterosexual people do it
Yep.
to queer people all the time. And once I
Yes.
realized that, I realized it's not really racism is a problem. That's not what I'm saying, but it's not every issue that we come up against. Sometimes it isn't a racism thing
Right.
necessarily. It's because they're the dominant demographic who is not thinking about the marginalized. Because I've done it, and I'm sure you, like, we've all done it,
Yeah,
right?
for
And this,
sure.
again, it's not white people. Sometimes an Asian person might say something, or I might say something rude about an Asian. For you get what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
we're all jerks at times. And once I got that and I understand that, it helps me navigate that nuanced conversation, because I think, since I'm thinking in those terms, I can then see where it is. Do you know
Hmm.
what? Or and at least I can
Yeah.
explain it in a way that they get it.
Yeah. And I like that you put it like that because I mean, when you just boil it down to race, then you miss a whole subset of other people who are, treated poorly because of who they are. And we know that, there's a huge homophobic, problem in the Black community, right? And there's a
Mhm.
huge issue with trans rights and, with
In
not
every
even
community,
rights, just
it's every
trans people
community
being,
though.
yeah, yeah, for
It's
sure. And
every
everybody has
community.
their thing. And so
Yeah.
that is the basis from which where you come from when you're trying to educate people. Now, how do you do it in a way that you don't lose friends? I mean, you have a personality where you're just, say it like it is, bubbly, nice, but also people know. Like, I think people know they can't play with you as
If
well.
you if okay, so if you're not my friend because I pointed out that you were just a bigot, I don't care. I don't want to be your friend. And when you put it that way, people are like, well, I don't want to lose her friendship because I'm a bigot. So they just have to deal with it. Do you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, if
Right.
you put it in those terms, people, because I'm like, just sit with it and think of what you're saying or
Hmm.
how other people feel when they hear you say that. And also, I say all this to say I fail every single day at this. I
Hmm.
mean, I got to call myself out, or I'm just wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm
Right.
not better at this than anyone else. I think I just try to think in those terms. And so when
Mhm.
I have these conversations, and quite frankly, when I go to have these conversations, I pray before I speak. I'm
Mhm.
still going to put my foot in my mouth. I'm still probably going to say it really abrasively, but I pray that the person who I'm speaking to or the people that I'm speaking to actually get what I'm trying to say in their heart. They may shut down in the moment, but people take away what you say all the time because they always remember how you make them feel. And I'm not trying to make anyone feel bad. I'm trying to make
Right.
them feel empathy for who I'm defending so that they can try to be a better person.
And what is the feedback that you get from your page? What kind of feedback do you
I
get
never
when you have
thought
to
that.
do that?
I always hear people, I never thought about it that way, which I mean, like, it's a way to think about, like in my head, I'm like, you never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, you think white people want to be called monkey? Like you never thought about it that way. Okay. And you know what? I don't have to go in on them like, I know you thought about it that way because it doesn't matter. You never thought about it that way. Are you gonna do better? Because I need you to
Right.
do better, right? Like I need you to help protect my children. Will you help me? Like that's how I bring it to people. And even when there's pushback, then you just say, okay, so then what are you afraid of? Like what is the fear? Just tell me how you feel without being politically correct. Tell me. And then you address the fear. And then once they get over that, you can then get back to the point, and usually you get an ally.
Mhm. You've brought that all full circle. So you've done that a lot. I can tell.
I
So
have actually.
how do you keep yourself sane though? How do you not get tired? Is it just as easy as just logging off? How do you not get tired of that responsibility?
Moscato. Just okay. Now
You're not joking.
you know what? I don't know because I would say, oh, that's just how I am or whatever. But my kid told me that she said, well, a couple of them said, when you come home, you're so drained. Like after you've been doing an event or doing something, you were so drained and you're snappy, like you're quicker to snap at us. And I did not know this until
Right.
like the 2020.
Right.
Um, so I don't know. I'm still working on it.
Right.
I thought I
That's
was
fair.
okay, and I didn't think it was affecting me, but it does.
Mm-hmm.
So I know one thing I do is I'm much more open with like when I'm stressed out. I'll put it on Facebook and my friends will help me. My friends will come and privately or publicly, they'll come and they'll love on me. They'll send
Mm-hmm.
me, like someone texted me the other day and was like, girl, there's Starbucks in your mailbox.
Aww.
Just little things like that, or they'll just send me a text and like I just said this prayer for you. So that's why I know I'm where God wants me to be, because he put people around me that help me, even people like my friends from Oregon, who just are in my messages just praising on me. So
Mm-hmm.
but I'm working on it.
I'm just sitting here thinking like it is so amazing that you never I've been knowing you for a long time, right? We've been knowing like in
Yeah,
each other's orbits for a long time. Our husbands are best friends and all
20
that.
20 years.
Right. We've been knowing each other a long time. And it's just amazing to see your progression and to get to know you in this way. And to be honest, to be, to be not a mentor, but to be an inspiration for me to say, okay, look at what Maya's doing. Look at how she's touching. Not saying I want to, do what you do, but I want to do what I do
Yeah.
in the way, in the way that makes me feel good. So it's always good to be able to look over and see somebody that right? It's easy to look at people you don't know and say, I can't do that because they're them.
Mhm.
And I'm sure people will probably look at this podcast and be like, well, I don't know Maya. She could be, but I know you. I know you as a regular person that we, hang out, and you've done this tremendous thing. So what do you see next for the group? We have midterms coming up. I know it's not a political group, but there is a lot. I am fearful because Trump is still in the orbit. He could run again, but there's also many Trumps. He has spawned a lot of people who want to be like him, who think like him. And sometimes I feel like we're just going backwards. I mean, when you think about what's happening with abortion rights, when you think about how the Supreme Court is stacked, it's, to me, it's scary. And I think about the type of world that Sienna as a woman is going to grow up in. And that's frightening for me. That's not pressure on you, but I'm just I'm just saying, when you look at the
Yeah,
world,
because I
how
don't
do you
look at it.
see?
I don't put Trump in my equation. I can't change Trump. I can't
Yeah,
reach Trump and I can't affect change in his heart, but I can
yeah,
change every person who hears my voice. And I
right.
can help change, or maybe not even change, but
Mm-hmm.
I can affect every person who I interact with. And so that's where the group is. It's not necessarily, like, again, it's not an anti-Trump group, right?
Right.
Even when it was 2020, I had very few posts that I allowed that were about Trump, because it
Yeah,
was not about
I
Trump.
do. I do recall
Because
that. Yeah,
yeah, that, and people would be pissed off,
he
but
is
like, no,
one
it's not
person.
about Trump. He is one person, right?
Yeah,
Trump didn't do anything. Like, whatever's going on in our country, that's us, that's society, right? Trump is one person and he's not God. So for me, he ain't nobody. He's not any more important than me, right?
mm-hmm. He's
It's
not.
about people. And so, like, the focus, even with 2020, because it's not necessarily, it is, you can't help people without politics, I'm realizing, right? Because of the laws and how people vote and what those votes mean, right? So for the midterms, we are just spotlighting people throughout the country in places like Iowa, or I don't know, like just little cities, little local elections. We're just spotlighting stuff like that because those are
Mm-hmm.
the people in the group. And so we're encouraging people to share about people in their community who are doing good. And, if you have time, join that campaign, whether it be letter writing from Virginia or California, or donating to their account, or just
Mm-hmm.
sharing it on your social media, because we all have friends that's nationwide. Um, but it's about, like, how can we help people, right? And
Right.
if you're helping people, some of that will be political, but it's also other stuff that's not political.
Because I do want to talk about you running for school board. Now, you have raised 4 of your 5 kids are in college. You have Nevaeh, she's left, and
Yeah,
what grade is she in? She's
she's
like
going into fourth.
fourth grade.
I know.
And so
So old.
anyway, I can't even talk because I mean, my child going to 5th grade. So, but
You're as old
I'm
as
laughing
me.
at you because I don't have the grown kids though,
Yeah.
which is so you have the band. So what made you want to run? Have you ever thought about you? First of all, let me just preface this by saying I feel like you've always been involved in your kids' school
Mm-hmm.
and being involved. Like that's just who you are. How did that transition to you running for the school board? And did this
Uh,
group have anything to do with that? Or involvement
no,
in this
the
group?
group had
Okay.
nothing to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah, the school board thing was just an extension of what I've always been doing. I've known every superintendent fairly well for like the past 3 or 4 superintendents in my community. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? So I've always been really super active in Stafford County schools. And then there's Facebook. So you'll have people talking about this is going on in the schools and I don't understand why there's this. And so I would just be helpful, like, hey, I already went through this. I know this. Send me a PM and I'm happy to walk you through it or something. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've been doing that for like a decade. And then you get people who, hey, I don't know you, but someone told me to ask you this question, like you could come and help me. So I've been doing that, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
I've always gone to the school board meetings. And then when they
Right.
got them on TV, then I can watch them at home. But I've gone and I've spoken up about stuff. And when things are crazy, or something is not making sense, or there's something really cool, I just talk a lot. I'm a champion of it, or
Mm-hmm.
I'm an advocate. And so I would just be out there talking to my friends, or I'd be at a bar like, do you know this is coming up on the school board? Da, da, da. Here's the email. So like that's just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I just been kind of doing that. And so I am kind of well known in Stafford, like where I live. I'm kind of, my name at
Right.
least, whether people like me or not. Um, and people always know, oh, that's the lady who's always cared about the schools for whatever reason.
Right.
So then running was just super easy. The person who had the position for a couple of terms, she stepped down,
Mm-hmm.
and she sent me a text in June and was like, it's time for you to stop complaining or stop critiquing and actually do the job or something.
Well,
But like, yeah, she got up in I was like, okay,
well, there you go.
all right then.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she was like, I'll help you. But she didn't. She totally ghosted me after that. Not even joking. But that was it. Like the way she phrased it, because I was critiquing and she didn't like what I had to say, and she kind of went in, and yeah, she was,
Like, oh, you
she's
think
like,
it's
well,
so easy, you do it,
yeah,
basically.
and yeah,
Mhm.
and I
And
was
you were
like,
like, okay.
challenge accepted. Thank you. Yeah.
And you did it. And so you've been on the school board is this your how long have you been on? This is your first year, your
Yeah,
first
I got
term?
sworn in January 1st, like the term, well, it was in actually December, but the term started January 1st. So
Mm-hmm.
it was 2021 election for me.
So
Um,
first of all, I feel like every couple of things. Number one, for people who just say, "Oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I'm like, what? That's like the hardest freaking job ever to raise, and humans is probably the most noble thing that you can do on this planet. Because I mean, if you can afford to do it and that's what you want to do, I feel like go at it. I mean, I feel like that. So kudos to you for being able to take your seeing the importance of your role and seeing and knowing that you have a bigger role to play than just your kids, right? It's affecting your kids, right? And that's probably where it starts, but it's also affecting these other kids. And I feel like you probably help all of these mothers out who work. I feel like I need to find a Maya in Howard County
I mean,
and be friends with
that's
them.
how that's where the magic is, to be quite honest with you. So my kids went through school and I joined the PTO. And it's kind of like nervous at first when you walk in, especially like I'm a Black mom who
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to work, so I'm a unicorn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, I'm not living like a particular way, so I'm already a unicorn when I walk in, right?
Right.
The suburbs, like, what are you doing here? And I've been on other PTOs too, and you don't feel comfortable, but at this school I felt really comfortable. They were super kind and wanted me there. And then I realized, like, these women are here at this school like 20 plus hours every week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna do that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I realized, like, this is a ministry, and we never brought God into it, but like, it's a ministry, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
something, because I wasn't just mothering my kids, I was mothering everybody else's. When my neighbor's kid fell and hurt herself, I'm the person that was in there that picked her up and kissed her boo boo. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And I
Right.
thought, like, that is really important though, because every child deserves that. Like, I loved what I was able to do for my kids. When my kid had a big test, that's the day I volunteered, and I would come and bring donuts for the whole class, right? To
Right.
just get that little bit of anxiety away. And then all the other kids appreciated it. But I was like, everyone's kid deserves that. And everyone's kid can't have that. Right.
Right.
But
Right.
I can give that to the kids that I can give that to.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when I say we were there 20 plus hours a week, I remember there were some weeks I was there 30 hours, just
Yeah.
volunteering, but also trying to hug on kids and love on kids. And those PTO moms are so damn important. People have no
Mm-hmm.
idea, and they crack jokes about us. But when I'm telling you, when kids come and tell me things that I have to now report to social services or to the principal or to the police, because I'm the person they trusted,
Right.
which, sometimes it would be me and a teacher, but sometimes it's not. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
It's so important. And I know, now we're losing that because everyone's got to work almost.
Right.
One income family is not feasible right now. I mean,
Right.
we're hurting too. um and that's too bad, because there's going to be things that slip through the cracks. PTO moms are incredibly important.
Yeah. And let me just say, you are a unicorn in more than one way, because you are actually sane and care for people and a nice person and see the bigger picture. Some PTL or PTO or whatever you call it in your parent teacher, organizations, whatever you call it in your community, they're not all like that. And that's the scary part. So when you do find somebody like you who cares for all people, who gets it, then you trust that person to be around your kids. So let me ask your experience about you've been on it's been what, 6 months almost that you've been on the school board. And there has been a fixation on school boards recently because of critical race theory and people's fixation and blatant, like, and I don't want to say intentional misunderstanding of what it is. And now there's like parent choice and all these other things. And honestly, in Virginia, where you are, that's how the governor won the election. by, using critical race theory to scare, white and, Asian and, to scare parents to get elected. And so has that creeped into where you are, into your county school board? Do you
Yeah, like
see it?
I've heard it when I was running. I had people who walk past my table, like when you go to events, which I hate. You just have to go to events when you're running, and like nobody really want me here, but you have to go to them, or you have to send a surrogate, like a friend, a volunteer. And I would either hear this or see it, where they would be like, they wouldn't even come over to my table. They'd be like, "Oh, she's for CRT," just because I was Black.
Oh my God.
That was it. Like they literally said it.
Mm-hmm.
Or I got asked the CRT question a lot. And so I handled it two ways. Like if a person was really genuine, I would have a genuine conversation with them. But when they are like looking for an argument, and you could tell because their shoulders are up here and they can't, like, right? They're like, and I'm like, I'm not going to talk to you about CRT because you're going to waste my time unless you can explain to me what it is. If you
Right.
can't tell me in a sentence or a paragraph, like I want a prepositional phrase and everything. If you can't explain what CRT is to me, then let's talk about something else. And
Right. And
I
honestly, there are
literally
bigger issues in school than,
yeah,
than
and
CRT.
people didn't like it, but I was like, then you don't even know, like, then come email me later, which some did. They did after they like researched it, they emailed me. But I say all that to say, um, that's not the most important thing. And when you got to meet people and just talk to them and respect them, they realized that, or they never were even saying that. It was just like a national kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because in my district is it was kind of purple, but as you can see, well, if you looked at the numbers, Democrats didn't show up for the 2021 in my area. They just didn't. They didn't come out and vote for that, you know, non-presidential election.
Mm-hmm.
But I won, and my opponent was a Republican, or he was endorsed by the Republicans, and I was endorsed by the Democrats. And my numbers actually at the polls were stronger than Glenn Youngkin's.
Mm-hmm.
So I obviously had tremendous Republican support, because you don't do that when Democrats don't show up. You don't get a higher number than the
Right.
Republican who won.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is because I was able to just talk to people and have them understand. And some, like, people really get it. What's happening on Fox News isn't necessarily what's happening in the schools. One of the
Right.
things I would say constantly is Stafford County schools are predominantly brown for the students, but the people who we employ are overwhelming majority white, like 89% or something like that.
I didn't know that about
So
Stafford
you
County,
think,
actually.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, have you found one white person to say that there's CRT in the school that's not a parent? Have you
Right.
found one teacher to come up and say, I'm being forced to teach CRT? Because I saw it on social media. It's in the schools. Oh, it's here. It's in staff. But nobody would ever tell me, well, what teacher? What school? No one.
What is it? What do you
Right?
consider? Yeah.
So I knew,
It's
I'm like,
crazy.
well,
Yeah.
so after that, I'm like, go talk to your kid's teacher and ask them. They never found it. And I think that's what they were able to trust. Oh, she's not bringing anything here, or it's not here. It might be there in Loudoun County, Virginia. It might be somewhere else, right?
Right.
Because Tucker Carlson said so, but
Right.
it's not here in Stafford
It's
County.
not even
So
in
let me just
probably
look at
Loudoun
what this
County.
lady stands for. And then they were able to vote for me.
Yeah. That's awesome. So, not that I want to put pressure on you, even though I feel like I've been doing that this whole conversation, but what do you see for do you think about what the future could be like, in terms of what you do next, like after the school? I hate, it's like, when you get
Yeah.
married and then people are like, oh, at the wedding, like, oh, when's the baby? And then the
I
baby
know,
gets here. It's
right?
like, oh, when's the next one? I feel like I'm asking you one of those questions, but do you
Yeah,
ever think about it? Do you let your mind just go there and say, well, what
I
else could I
do.
do?
I
Mm-hmm.
do and I don't. Like, it just depends on what my husband needs and what my child needs that's left, and my children, like, where are my kids going to be? Like, if three of my kids live in this one state, maybe we should go there. Or I don't necessarily have political aspirations, although I think I'd make a great senator out in DC, because I don't have time for this mess. But I really don't have political aspirations. I don't enjoy the politicking of it. I like to be honest and open. I don't it, right? I don't want to, I just don't want to do stuff like that. And I know you have to.
Right.
in
It's a
order
part
to
of the
be
game,
in
unfortunately.
politics. I think the reason why people in Stafford voted for me in the acquired district is because they knew I would just try my hardest to keep it real and be upfront with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is hard in politics, I think, because you get backstabbed by the people you're on the board with, or by, by people who you
Right.
thought you could, like, it's just hard. So I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for me. It truly depends on what my family needs, and because my family comes first,
Yeah.
and what's going on in the country. I really like just helping educators. Like, that's fun to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also
And they
miss
need
making
you.
money.
They need you. I feel like that's
Yeah,
the
but I want money too.
no.
Like,
What? Okay.
I want to get a job. I think I want to get a full-time job and actually work and
Why,
and
Maya?
have a nice
Why?
car, right? Like, I could use some money.
Why? No, we need you over here, Maya. Forget money.
Yeah,
No, I'm
but
just kidding.
my car. I
No,
need a car.
look, I understand it. I need a car too. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I loved our conversation.
Well,
Thank you
thank
so
you for
much for
having
being
me.
open and talking about hard things. These are not easy things to discuss. I mean, it's easy between us because we're, two Black women, but what you're doing and how you do it with so much grace and humility and comedy is good. You're doing good things. You're doing good things in the world, Maya. So
Can I just tell people, embrace your hot mess? Just be who you are, because people aren't gonna like you anyway. So they
and
didn't
Maya
like you.
embraces her hot mess. It's on
Yes.
social media for you to see it. Sorry. I love it. You have me cracking up over here all the
I'm a hot
time.
mess.
So, all the time. Clearly you're not. Clearly. Or you can be both. Two things can be true.
Yes.
And this
Amen.
is one of them. All right, Maya. Thanks so much for joining me on
Thank
the
you.
podcast.